Dear friends, good morning. It is my proud privilege to welcome you on behalf of Professor Bram Singh Horticulture Foundation, BSHF, a not for profit organization, and my own behalf to this 5H webinar series, Future Indian Horticulture.
That's
I welcome my colleague Dr. Shalain Rajan, who will join shortly, former director, Central Institute of Subtropical Horticulture, Lucknow. BSHF is thankful to NIPA, New India Publishing Agency, New Delhi, for sponsoring this webinar series. The webinar today, as you know, is on secondary horticulture and valorization by Dr. D.C. Joshi, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Agricultural University, Kota, Rajasthan. About Dr. Joshi, you know he doesn't need introduction, but even then it is customary to introduce the speaker. So Professor D.C. Joshi obtained his master and doctoral degree from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. He commenced his professional career with industry and later served state agriculture universities in different capacity for good 33 years as associate professor, head of the department and dean, and he was ICR emeritus professor for 1 year before taking over the position of Vice Chancellor at Agriculture University Kota since August 2019. Professor Joshi's 42 years professional experience is mainly on establishing new institutes, new projects, institutional strengthening, and administration, developing new educational programs, teaching and research management, outreach and technology transfer management, and student welfare uh, management. Professor Joshi served as chairman of ICR National Committee on Higher Agricultural Education for domain subject. He was chairman of ICR peer review team and member of UGC and AAC peer review teams for accreditation of various universities and colleges. He was chairman of BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards Committee, FAD 10. Professor Joshi is chairman, advisory, research advisory committees of ICR, CFET, and was member of research advisory committee of 5 government institutes. Professor D.C. Joshi developed more than 50 technologies, a business incubation center, and initiated students startup and innovation program. Professor Joshi, a fellow of ISAE and received ISAE gold medal. He has published more than 110 research papers, books, and book chapters, and guided 32 master and doctorate students. Coming to the topic of the webinar now, secondary horticulture and valorization. To me, the topic means the post harvest horticulture practices, losses, and waste minimization, value addition to the produce, and resulting waste value addition are known as secondary horticulture and valorization. Further, on the subject, Dr. Joshi would enrich our knowledge on it. Now, friends, questions can be raised in chat box, which will be answered after the talk or later. Now, I request Vice Chancellor Dr. D.C. Joshi to take the floor and deliver the talk. Dr. Joshi, sir.
Thank you, Professor Brahma Singh ji. Good morning, all of you. Honorable Padma Shri, Professor Brahma Singh ji, Dr. Shailendra Rajan, former Director, Central Institute of Subtropical Horticulture, all the participants, and all those who are connected for this today's webinar on secondary horticulture and valorization. I just as introduced the topic by Professor Brahma Singh ji, though he introduced me at elaborately, and I my field of course is post harvest processing and further post production systems. And for horticulture, certainly I would like to speak today on those things. I think we will go through the slides which I will be trying to upload. Yes. Whether my slides are visible?
Visible, visible,
Yeah. So,
visible.
fine. This is today. I have been asked to speak on secondary horticulture and valorization. I just have made few slides. Perhaps the slides are more than what the topic says. But I thought, I'm a teacher basically, so I thought let us have more material with me, and that's why there are some more slides. I will be refreshing you something on the horticulture, which most of our audience today might be well aware. Some of them are more aware than me, but I will just refreshen you. And particularly, just wanted to, create the background of the topic. Horticulture, as we know, is very, very important nowadays, of course, contributing a great as far as our Indian economy. And since a few years, we are seeing the growth of horticulture, which has resulted in manifold increase in the production of various horticultural fruits, vegetables, and other commodities. And on the other hand, we are also well aware that the fruits and vegetables, being the major nutritional commodities, are consumed mainly raw or cooked or processed sometimes, mainly because of health point of view, health promoting the attributes the fruits and vegetables have. And that's why the demand is great, and the demand has further increased after this pandemic COVID-19, because now people realize that dal roti se kaam nahi chalega, and they are now feeling that healthy fruits and vegetables, herbals, health foods, functional foods must be part of the daily diet one way or the other. And that's why there is a good scope that the consumption has increased for these kinds of the commodities nowadays after this big issue of COVID. Um, you know, uh, The other also, there are many other aspects which people are now trying to develop more healthier foods and some immunity boosters and all those things. So those kinds of demands have also been increased. But on the other hand, we know that, as I said, the horticultural productions have increased great since last 1 decade at least. But in the peak season, we know that when the production comes in the market, there is a glut, and the prices crash down immediately, and farmers don't get even the prices which the cost which they have incurred during their horticultural production. And that's why at times, or many of the times during the flush season, the farmers are not getting remunerative prices, and that's why it's a discouraging system for them. And nowadays, even further increasing the costs of inputs like fertilizers and many other labor costs and all those things. Cultivating horticultural crops will further increase the production cost, and therefore, unless and until they get the remunerative prices, the horticultural farming activity becomes unviable. That is true for many of the other agricultural commodities also. So it's a problem, and if this trend continues of non-remunerative prices in the market for the crops, then we will be at disadvantage of not having the nutritious horticultural produce available to us. There will be more post-harvest losses if there is no market. And see, the post-harvest losses are there in other commodities also. But see, here we are losing the more nutritious commodities. And therefore, I say that there are more nutritional losses also. Also, you will agree with me that the cost of production, the cost of the produce of the horticulture commodities are relatively more than the other agricultural commodities. And that's why whatever is the loss, there will be higher monetary loss in case of the loss of the horticultural produce. And that's why in all the counts, whether it is the product loss or it is nutritional loss, there is a great loss of post production losses of the horticulture. And this will also deprive the participation of the rural population in the total economy of the country. And that is not actually the desirable attribute. So what is the solution? How to control the decline of prices in the market, mainly during the flush season, when the seasons are full, all our commodities are harvested at a time. At that point of time, there will be excess supply than the demand. And that's why, as usual in Indian condition, when demand is much more than the supply is much more than the demand, the market prices crash. To sustain the remunerative prices, what we'll have to do is perhaps the easiest way, I would not say easiest, but the one way is to expand our markets. You can expand the market both territorially and the functionally. I will try to explain this territorial markets and functional markets later on in after a few slides. But we should understand here that the market supply demand situation should well balanced as far as horticultural commodities are concerned, for not only the prosperity of the farmers who are involved with this, but it is good for the consumers and as a whole national agricultural economy. And that's why this is renewable sources. Every year we produce the tomato, and every year it should be consumed every time, every season. So that is being done. That is what I say is primary horticulture or primary agriculture. So what perhaps is required is we'll have to shift from the primary agriculture to secondary agriculture, for this matter here, from primary horticulture to the secondary horticulture. This will not only sustain our production and make available the commodities to the consumers, but it will have other benefits also in creating employment opportunities and the remunerative prices and total wealth in the hands of the farmers. Use of horticultural produce. Shivangi, slides are moving now. See, this is well known to all of us uh, that the horticultural produce are more relatively perishable than the other agricultural commodities. And we have three different ways of utilizing this horticultural produce. Perhaps the best way is the consumption of the fresh produce. And in India, we are fortunate that we get many of the horticultural produce throughout the year in the fresh form. And we don't go for processing. I think not doing processing is not a big crime, but crime is wasting and not consuming. And that's why the expanding market for fresh produce perhaps is the best and the first and primary objective of utilizing the horticultural produce. There are many constraints and limitations. There are issues of expanding the market for the fresh horticulture produce. We should have a very strong and efficient supply chain. There are a lot of problems. We are well aware of harvesting delicate and sensitive these perishable commodities, further handling in the market, transportation, the cold chain system, and all those, the backward linkages with the farmers, the forward linkages in the markets. This is another topic itself of handling the supply chain for fresh produce itself. It's a big issue. It's a big topic. I will not deal with that at this moment, but I just wanted to pinpoint that this is the best alternative if we can use the fresh horticulture produce in the market. But as the fact is, we have limited market for fresh produce because of various reasons, as I said. So, establishing territorial markets instead of the fragmented APMC-based markets. This is the one of the solutions, one of the alternative ways of expanding the market for fresh produce, so that your consumption of fresh produce increases, your demand for the fresh produce is enhanced, and it can reach to those distant markets where we are not able to supply through our APMC system, or through the normal existing village marketing system. And therefore, that is the best way of how to do the expansion of the fresh produce in different distant markets. Itself is a big issue, but there are possibilities. People are working on that since around another 4 or 5 years. A lot of youngsters have come up and doing business in aggregation. This is another way that people are trying to connect the farmers with the consumers, and trying to improve the supply chain for the fresh produce. There are other ways of collectivization, cluster farming, contract farming, cooperative farming. There are the different ways of linking the farmers with the market. Finally, it should be one nation, one market for the fresh horticulture produce. But after all, there are going to be more production. We are improving a lot of productivity and all those things. So in future also, we'll have to go on expanding this market, and the expansion of market has its own limitation. After some time, there might be saturation in the market for fresh produce. So the other alternative available is do the value addition of the surplus produce have with us. And that's why either you can do some production of the or preservation of this produce for using it in the off season, or the the places where these kinds of fresh produce are not available at that time in the whole country. We have different agroclimatic conditions, and all the produce are not available at all these corners of the country, and that's why some sort of preservation, processing, value addition is must, and we are doing it. Though we are not doing to that level, and as I said, it's not must that we should do all the processing. 100% processing is not at all advocated in Indian condition. But as I said, the crust is avoiding the loss. The third, perhaps alternative available is valorization of byproducts. I should not say waste, but reusable waste can also be converted into some useful products. The first two things we are doing it. We are doing to some extent, as I said, value addition and primary processing, or to some extent secondary processing. But valorization of or use of byproducts and waste is still in its initial stage in the Indian condition. And if I, as I said, if Professor Brahma Singh and his team is going to continue only do research and adoption of newer technologies, we are going to have more productivity and more production of these horticultural products. In that case, in long run, we will be again having problem of the market expansion, and that's why we'll have to find out the alternatives. In fact, for farmers' point of view, the marketing, the demand should always be more than the supply, and that's why we'll have to do something in diversifying utilization of the produce which farmer is doing, and that's why the total biomass should be effectively utilized per unit input. That is what I say. See, we should agree with us that see, in the whole per hectare unit area of the horticultural production, we are using only fraction. We are using only tomato fruit, not all the biomass, or even using the tomato fruit and then converting that into tomato sauce. Perhaps there are further, the material available which we are not using. So a lot of things which are there we are producing, but we are really using 15-20% of that which are directly edible, and that's why the total biomass has to be effectively utilized. And for that we'll have to do some diversification into some products, maybe even non-food items also. That is the important. So before going to secondary horticulture, I just wanted to focus on the scenario of Indian agriculture. Uh, we are now in the era of surplus, both in horticulture and agriculture, and therefore, as Professor Brahma Singh was introducing, post-production system perhaps now requires equal focus. Till now, we were focusing on improving the productivity through various inputs like high yielding varieties and technological inputs and irrigation and fertilizers and so forth and all those things. But after doing the production, if we are losing, that is the big problem, and that's why post-production system is equally important. Perhaps we missed the bus for a few years, but now since last 1 decade, people are realizing the importance of the post-production system, and particularly that is more important as far as the nutritious horticultural products are concerned. And that's why it's very important, horticultural products being more perishable. There are more post-harvest losses, uh, many times more than the other agricultural commodities. And that's why though the focus continues to be on the raw produce of food, little processing is done at present. We should expand the processing. Government incentives are there. Farmer income is still not increasing because of various reasons well known to most of us. And the next generation farmers are not inclined to continue with the agriculture. Even we have a lot of sense of area and attracting the people, and but people are still not attracted. In fact, on the ground level, and that's why we have a lot of challenges of making the agriculture and horticulture more profitable and attractive. As I said earlier, there are ways of doing that: value addition, processing, branding, marketing. Those are the things. Now the trend has come for doing the agribusiness. People are putting food processing industries, value addition centers. A lot of startups have come up. That is the good the scenario going up, and many of the startups are coming mainly in the post production system, secondary agriculture, secondary horticulture system, and that's a positive sign. I think it's really encouraging, and we should try to support those startups who are trying to be on the ground. And that's why secondary agriculture is the need of the hour, which we should carefully handle that, and the benefits which will be realized of the high production to put it into the whole value chain. Secondary agriculture, there is no perhaps clear cut definition available. I did not find any particular definition. How do you define secondary agriculture? But I got one paper from where the secondary agriculture terminology came into existence with a report Professor DPS Verma from Ohio State University submitted to our planning commission in year 2008. He was invited by government of India for doing something in revamping the agriculture, and he suggested that we should focus more on secondary agriculture being high value addition to primary agriculture for bridging the gap between urban and rural economies. Secondary agriculture adds high value, creates jobs, reduces pollution, improves farm economies rapidly, builds rural agro industries, increases international trades, adds quality to life of rural population, makes agriculture internationally competitive, and finally it can play an important role in searching import substitutes and make India self-reliant, Atmanirbhar. So this is the definition which I found from the report. In nutshell, of course, the activities leading to the making main agriculture produce consumable in any form as food are mostly part of the primary, secondary, tertiary processing which we are doing it. And I think we normally feel that that is the secondary agriculture, as Professor Brahma Singh said. I also feel that that should be part of secondary agriculture, but secondary agriculture is much more than primary, secondary, and tertiary processing. We may have what do you call it quaternary processing, primary, secondary, and tertiary processing, but the quaternary processing may be the secondary agriculture. So secondary agriculture in Indian context may be defined as all practices and processes which increases farmers' income by converting the agricultural residues and byproducts into high value commodities for pharmaceutical, industrial, medicinal, and specific food uses by using efficient technologies, market intelligence, and global preferences. So this is what we wanted to do. Secondary agriculture means it is, as I said, beyond the primary, secondary, and tertiary processing. Do something much more than that, more sophisticated, more high-end use of the technologies, and that is what the secondary agriculture is, and that perhaps is the now requirement. Though, as I said, and it is there in the previous slide also, that it is very important from farm viability point of view, the profitability to the farmers point of view, and in addition to the food security, nutritional security point of view, this is very, very important. And that's why Mr. Ashok Dalwai committee also submitted one of its report, and they said adding value to primary agriculture and building agricultural enterprises in rural India through farm linking activities and secondary agriculture. So this is they also defined a secondary agriculture as a production activity at farm level, at rural level, as farm enterprise, rural enterprise. And they suggested threefold strategy that the production has to be sustainable, sustainability of production, monetization of farmers' produce, and recognizing agriculture as an enterprise. Secondary agriculture can help drive the growth of primary agriculture and adequately help utilize the capital, the human resources, technology, organizational capacities, and risk management in the agricultural production. So this is very, very important as far as secondary agriculture. I just wanted to emphasize more on secondary agriculture, and that's why I had 3-4 slides on that. Secondary agriculture and primary agriculture I had just depicted through this block diagram. As we said, that the production system, the cultivation and rearing or whatever agriculture is beyond even the crop production, there are certain more things in agriculture. Then primary processing, secondary processing, tertiary processing, this we may include, we may not include in primary agriculture, but these are all perhaps maybe the particularly the secondary and tertiary processing, can be the feeder units to the secondary agriculture. So the secondary agriculture is entirely beyond the primary processing, secondary processing, and all those things, and mainly on utilizing the other biomass, which is very highly valuable. And how to do that, then convert that into agro enterprises, and then the final high value, very high valued products, which may ultimately be used into pharma products, for the health foods, cosmetics, industrial items, electronics, construction. There are various items which can be formed from the total biomass available in the agriculture or the horticulture. So that mainly was secondary agriculture. Similar is the situation with the secondary horticulture. Secondary horticulture is of primary importance. That is what I have given the title. Uh, and as I said earlier, perhaps we should agree that horticulture is much more important now, as far as nutritional security is concerned, as relatively to the agriculture. Agriculture is main important for food security, of course. We cannot deny that. But as the horticulture generates raw material, which are more important for nutrition point of view, secondary horticulture can reverse the trend of value loss. As I said, the value loss is much more in horticultural crops than the other agricultural commodities. But through secondary horticulture, perhaps we can add 2, 3, 4 times more value to the primary horticulture. See, increasing production is going to be there, and increasing this the production, better economic utilization, gainful utilization of this surplus production, and produce it to either process it for a longer shelf life, and total I have made a word here, total factor productivity, and generating additional jobs, income for farmers, as we were discussing in secondary agriculture. See, everything is not possible to be converted into food items. So there are certain items which we will have to go beyond our traditional systems of products, and we can have newer markets, as I said, and higher income. Secondary horticulture, if we talk, is not only, as I said, processing, but even, as I said earlier, the total biomass available, or even the secondary horticulture, we can say even the diversification of the cropping system, introducing the new crops, which not nowadays we are not doing it. That can also be the part of the secondary horticulture. The organic production, herbal and medicinal plants production, manufacturing of the commodities like bioactive compounds, polyphenols, flavonoids, organic acids. These are real secondary horticulture. Many of these have positive impacts, as I said many times, that these are very, very important as far as health is concerned. And the tragedy at present is these commodities are required every day for production of the nutraceuticals and some of the pharma products and all those things. We are importing those things. On the other hand, we have the material available in India. Perhaps we are not geared up to use those things for converting those things into the high end values of these biocompounds and polyphenols and flavonoids and all those things. So but it is possible in India, since we have the material available with that. Why can't we convert that into these very useful products for human health? These are very, very important. As I said, horticultural commodities have high medicinal values and nutritional values. So these high-end products can be converted into anti-inflammatory items, anti-allergic, anti-cancer, antioxidants, and there are a lot of things. Not only we have, as I said, we are importing, but we can export those things in the global market also. And therefore, see, as I said, and we are mentioned here that these are the bioactive compounds, not only, as I said, for pharma products and nutraceuticals, but even for the food items we require. For many of the processed foods where we require emulsification, we require thickeners and all those things. There we can use these items produced from byproducts. and they can work as the building blocks for processed foods, materials, composites, fibers, fuel systems, imparting high economic competitiveness for the whole horticulture sector. So this is what I call it functional expansion of the market. Territorial expansion is one part, and then functional expansion is the another part, and both are very, very important. Territorial expansion has its own limitation, though that's very important, and much more component goes into that. But this other part, smaller part, may be converted into functionality of the other components, uh, which are have the scope for newer products and all those things. So functional expansion, functional market expansion is very, very important, and that is the part of valorization or the secondary horticulture. Value addition and processing, I will not deal with this, though this is my basic subject, and I believe that most of us are knowing this. We are doing processing, primary processing, secondary processing, high end processing. Why processing is being done now? Because a lot of processable varieties are available now. We have technologies available, we have machinery available, a lot of government incentive schemes are there, and demand is there for processed products because of more urbanization, and more working ladies, and our habits, food habits. These are all known to us. But recently, more demand has increased, I should say, for functional foods, organic foods, convenience foods, and all those things since last 1 or 2 decades. And that's why further processing is improving. We are increasing the level of processing in our Indian conditions also. So it's very important, and we'll have to expand in this. Importance, as I said, without processing, perhaps we will be losing the perishable, valuable commodities. As I said, we are losing much more as such. Though we are the second largest producer in most of the commodities, only 10% of the horticulture, that is what I have mentioned here, is processed. But the developed countries are producing more. The horticulture crops provide very type of component, as I said earlier. So that's why we can use it for more value addition into other gainful products. And as compared to agriculture commodities or other commodities, horticulture are the right candidate for value addition because of, as I said, more profitability, more processability, more health promoting compounds, and all those things. And value addition in horticulture uh, is the process in which high price is realized for same volume of a primary product by means of processing, packaging, upgrading the quality, and other such methods. So that is what is known to us. And what is the need for value addition in horticulture? It's again, some of the things are repeated. I will just show you a couple of photographs of value addition. It's very simple farmer level value addition system. These are some of the photographs from one village in Gujarat, which village produces, it's a whole banana producing village. And simple things of, picking up the banana bunches, how they handle it, how they, cut the bunches into fingers. They do the washing, disinfectant use, then separating and weighing, all those things, small things. Then further washing, and really cushioning in a package of 5 kg or whatever is the clientele demand, and then packaging into cardboard boxes very carefully. These are the fruits are many of the fruits are delicate, of course, but raw banana is more stronger. And you see how they are using all those simple but sophisticated systems of packaging, and then maintaining the temperature, relative humidity, even stuffing into the carton container, or even the in the reefer vans for transportation. So this is all a system of simple village level value addition, or the post production handling of the fruits and vegetables. These photographs are for the other commodity, sapota. Sapota is also equally important. These are highly perishable. You cannot consume sapota after 48 hours of harvesting. So within 48 hours, or even slightly more than that, we'll have to consume it. So fast movement of the fresh produce is required. So they do. This is again photograph of South Gujarat, where sapota is being handled by the cooperative societies, village level cooperative societies, where they get the produce in the afternoon in the cooperative society. They do the grading, they do the sampling, and grading into two parts. The smaller and bigger, and then weighing, and then packaging into the 5 kg or 10 kg cardboard boxes, sealing them, and packaging them. You can see how carefully they are even loading mechanically into the truck. So see, fruits are very 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 delicate, and if something some invisible damage even takes place during this post harvest handling, that will multiply and decay, or the rotting takes place during transportation or the further handling. So it's very peculiar. I need not to emphasize more on this. This is very important, and these are very simple things. These are not in metro cities, these are in the villages, and these are only couple of examples which I have shown for the village level post harvest handling, but there are many other value chains which are there. These are well known. I need not to explain you what are the different fruits which are processable into different kinds of commodities. Each fruit has 8, 10, 12 items which can be made from that, and a lot of these are the list, perhaps not very important. Similarly, for vegetables, there are many vegetables which are now processed into different products, canned products, pickled products, dehydrated products, and there are a lot of powders, and all those things are converted. There are few of the vegetables which are not still being processed, perhaps, or it's not processed to that extent which we can think of adding those commodities which are not processed into the processing segment. And this is another opportunity that we should see that these things are put into at least processing and reduce their losses further. I have just mentioned few more examples of the products. Even tomato can have around 20 products. The carrot have, and all those things. Potato is another important vegetable. McCain makes a list of big products, and many industries are based on even individual single commodity. It's very risky, but even there are industries, processing industries, they are thriving only on potato processing. So there are big success stories as far as processing of the fruits and vegetables and other horticultural products are concerned. But today's concern is the byproducts and waste, and that's why we should say that the huge amounts of residues and processing waste, and not only residues and processing waste, rather, as I said earlier, see here I have mentioned here, lot of fresh produce is wasted due to constraints in supply chain. This is the first thing. And even before that, even we are wasting a lot of biomass in the field itself, which our farmers are not picking because they feel that those are not economically important for them. So a lot of produce which are otherwise being produced in the horticultural orchard or in the horticultural field, which farmers feel are not economically viable them for to pick up and put it into market. And that's why that loss is one part. The second loss is the around 20, 30, 40% loss in the fresh produce during handling. There are other losses in some of the commodities, maybe less than 20%. Some of the commodities may be more than 30%. And whatever is processed, I said earlier that we are processing around 10% of the horticultural produce. Out of those 10%, 25 to 50% of that produce is further wasted, even during the processing. Not total wastage, but there are byproducts which are not being used, otherwise which can be used. And that's why if we say even 10% or 20% is being produced, out of those 20%, more than half are the byproducts or the waste which has otherwise the potentiality to use. So total quantum, if we say, from the farmer's field to the consumer, we are losing much more than 30-40% of the whole biomass is being wasted. So it's a big issue how to consume those things which are consumable, which are to be converted into useful or economical products, and that is what the crust of today's talk is. So those processing waste, and particularly for from these horticulture commodities. So see, processing waste from paddy to rice is the husk. Perhaps there are limited uses of husk or limited value addition. But if you have tomato processing, you have seed and skin and all those things. They contain very high valued nutrients, and that's why processing of these byproducts of waste, particularly from horticultural commodities, it's more remunerative, more required, and it's a really, we should do something on that. As I said here, because of the processing waste composed mainly of many of these pomas and all those things which are containing potential valuable bioactive compounds, carotenoids, lycopene, polyphenols, dietary fibers, and so many and so forth. So perhaps the stress is required on the recovery of these nutrients, recycling of the possible byproducts, and upgrading of the waste, what is can be transformed into several other products. So the valorization comes in picture. So valorization perhaps can be defined as as I said, the quaternary processing of particularly of byproducts and waste. Here, as I said, I just wanted one more point I have mentioned is making the losses, post-production losses are it's a very big issue. It's perhaps we should term it as a criminal wastage, because we are in putting a lot of inputs into our natural resources which are very scarce, very limited, including soil and water and fertilizers, chemical, energy, our human labor, and all those things, and then doing the production, doing the processing, and then wastage. So it's a big issue. So this has to be kept in mind, that not only it's a product loss, but lot of things which are we have incurred cost in doing that production, we have incurred cost in doing the processing, and then we are losing. So that is a big issue which should not be tolerable. We try to do something big. So huge organic masses are generated result, and then on the other hand, this wastage disposal is the problem. They create a lot of environmental pollution, and nowadays a lot of that climate change activists, they want methane production is to be reduced, and so many and so forth. So it's another issue of safe handling of the byproducts and waste, and not creating the environmental problems. So this is both important from environmental point of view and economic point of view, and that's why it's very important for sustainable production, sustainable development of horticulture and agriculture, particularly in our Indian condition. And that's why more effective utilization of these crop residues is very, very important. And I say again and again, total biomass. The additional returns that it brings augment the income from farming activities, besides providing opportunities for. So on the other hand, see, I mentioned somewhere why the market prices crush in the flush season. The problem is more supply than the demand. Why it is not there in case of milk? Because milk is being processed every time, and that's why in this case also, if we do the total processing, total utilization of byproducts and all those things, I'm confident that the remunerative prices in long run will be available to the farmers. The whole economic will be, it will be a circular economy, and the benefits from the processing, primary, secondary, tertiary processing, and byproduct utilization will perhaps give give back the remunerative prices to the farmers. So your total cost of production or the production at the farmers level will be more, commercial viable. That is the very, very important point here. Horticulture waste can work as the best substitute for value-added products, is the best substitute for valorization because it contains more bioactive compounds, uh, and can be utilized into food ingredients, additives, and then nutrients, flavors, dietary fibers, and there are many things which this can convert into that. Uh, I see my slide is not showing one point is negative valued residues could be recycled for the production of newer value added products. See, as I said, we feel that these crop residues or byproducts are not good for us. It's a lower valued or negative valued word I have used, and that products can create closed loop economy by providing the renewable supply chain. So that's very, very important for this thing. This is another block diagram, which is again repetition of the whole thing. I have mentioned here all the agricultural system where fruits and vegetables and their byproducts, peels, pulp, and all those things can have the natural bioactive compounds. They can be converted into various products. But before converting that into various products, there are a lot of issues which perhaps require handling, which I will be again dealing in next slide. And then it can be converted into all kinds of different products which have a lot of good applications, food fortification, and cosmetics and probiotics and all those things. So this is another, I just wanted to depict the whole system of the valorization with their applications of the high end products. This is again something that again in a different way I just wanted to depict for you your this thing. We have the raw fruit available for direct consumption as well as for processing. Then that generate both waste and byproducts. It has to be collected. It has to be preserved or stored somewhere. It's a big issue. And then there should be some valorization processes, extraction processes, fermentation processes, some other processes by which the high valued products can be extracted out, converted, produced, manufactured, and that products have a lot of industrial applications. As we said that there are a lot of categories of different products which are being made or which can be made from this. There are, as I said, ingredients, fine chemicals can be made, food and health supplements can be made, animal feed and fertilizer and biofuel can be made, and energy. So if you see this pyramid of utilizing the byproducts, we can name it as biorefinery concept. See this as on today or at present, we are using our byproducts, waste or whatever surplus available more in energy. Somewhere people are using as a generating some energy or biogas or something like this. But it has further use as biofuel, densification of this and converting that into the energy and electricity, and that is, it's very important. I will be telling something more in the next slide. And very little is being converted into health supplements and food ingredients and all those things, and some are used as the fine chemicals and all those things. So these top two can also be the proportion can also be increased. This is another, perhaps not required now. There are a lot of fruits and vegetables. What are the byproducts? I have just named, peel and pomace and seeds and all those things. We know that most of the seeds, all the seeds have fat content and oil content. Maybe not economical to extract oil from them, but there are certain oils, there are certain seeds which have high valued oil and all those things. So the polyphenols and phenolic compounds, carotenoids, and all those things. This is another slide where I wanted to show you the byproducts, their components, high valued components, and their applications. This is another slide where I just wanted to show you the, one technology is extraction of high valued biochemicals or biocompounds from byproducts or waste. From pomace we can extract the phenolic compounds and all those things. These are I have taken slide from some of the research papers where they have optimized different extraction methods, and they have tried different feedstocks, different byproducts from different fruits and vegetables. So all kinds of extraction methods, their technology, their protocol has been attempted and are available in the literature. This is there. See, pumpkin seed is another thing. Pumpkin, Professor Brahmasingh ji, is very bulky vegetable, but I just wanted to tell you, I don't consider pumpkin as vegetable at all. I wanted to classify pumpkin as oilseed crop, because if you see the and do whole calculation of from the production of whole bulky pumpkin per hectare or per unit land, and the availability of the 4-5% seeds in the whole bulk, and the oil content almost 50% oil into the pumpkin seeds, the per hectare oil yield is perhaps at par with groundnut, or maybe more than that. So, see, it's a very, very peculiar situation that the pumpkin seed oil itself is a big business. And on the other hand, pumpkin seed oil is the is the best health oil, very high valued oil, I should say. And that's why this is one of the example. There are many other. So this is what we have situation that many of these seeds and peels and all those things which can be converted into real high valued products. Banana peels. Banana is another commodity which perhaps I think all of you are knowing both the problems and prospects. Banana cultivation, if you are well aware, perhaps I'm sure I'm perhaps less aware. I have seen some of the fields in Gujarat where after the harvesting, there is a big problem of removing the whole pseudostem. And if you remove from the field for the next crop, where to dump it? So they are dumping on the boundaries of the fields or on the roadside of the village. And unfortunately, pseudostem of the banana doesn't degrade easily in the field. It takes a lot of time. Its biodegradability is not that fast, not rapid. And that's why it's a big problem in the villages. If you see, many of the horticulturalists, they have tried to incorporate those pseudostem into the field using rotavator and all those things. I think it has its own limitations, and adoption of those technologies on mass scale is a big problem at the villages. And that's why alternative utilization of banana pseudostem is very, very important. Banana leaves and all those things. So even in the biomass in the field itself has big potentiality to convert into other products which we are not using it. Perhaps some of the research institutes now have come up with banana pseudostem fiber extraction, and some other material which they are extracting from pseudostem, and a lot of products have come up. They make rope and paper and particle board and so many and so many things. And itself is a big industrial sector of utilizing the banana biomass for remunerative prices. I read somewhere that even in Japan, they print their currency notes on paper made from banana fiber. So this is one issue and one success story. It's a big. There are many other things which can be converted into different byproducts. The another which I just wanted to point, though it is not there in my slides, citrus, green droppings, or those things which we are not consuming mainly uh, in the orchards. The citrus green immature droppings can be dried, pulverized, and stored as a feeder. This can work as a feeder unit for the extraction of medicinal compounds. That is what valorization, or that is what I wanted to say here. And then it has a lot of medicinal values. So this is another way, and there are big and a large amount of biomass is available as far as citrus droppings are concerned. Similarly, is the use of citrus processing byproducts, the seed and pomace. The seed and pomace can be, dried and pulverized in some feeder units, and can be converted into, pectin, or seed can be used for oil extraction and all those things. Those pectin can be further, recycled or used in, as a thickener for the ketchup, tomato ketchup. So those are a lot of things are there as far as use of these byproducts and waste are there. Though my list is big, I don't want to deal with these things at a great length. So bioeconomy, circular economy, this is what I have already mentioned here, that if we have a, utilization, better economic utilization of these very potential biochemicals, biomaterials into, value added products, and particularly, as I wanted to mention here, the bioenergy point of view. Most of the industries, not only food industry, most of the industries are very worried of their sustainable energy sources. At present, either they are using coal for generating the steam and electricity and all those things, or diesel or something else. The alternative available is solar and the biomass. So today, if we say that the biomass available from horticultural waste and byproducts, and if it can be converted into bioenergy, they have a lot of scope. And I foresee that in future this will be having, manifold demand of biomass, because nowadays everybody wants to get rid of the fossil fuels. They want to have non-fossil fuel energy sources, and that's why this is the best candidate for converting into bioenergy. So this is another way of using this. Particle board can be produced from the even stems and leaves and all those things. Fiber from pseudostem I mentioned here. High value share of agriculture in total economy. If you do this whole, see, total economy is there, there will be manifold addition of the returns from the whole agriculture and horticulture into the Indian economy. See, the opportunities are there. See, the avenues of the secondary agriculture may be categorized into three types. I was mentioning just now that there can be, there are processing units and all those things. There are already there. Feeder units for production catchments. These are the fourth category: primary, secondary, tertiary. This is the fourth category I wanted to say here. As we say that from tomato processing industry, we get tractor trolley loads every day, 4-5 tractor trolleys of pomace, and they are throwing it. On the other hand, that pomace is very rich source of lycopene, and lycopene is in great demand. We are well aware, I need not to emphasize on. So how to do it? Handling tomato pomace is a big problem. Dumping is a big problem. So there can be some feeder units in the area where the tomato pomace can be collected, can be dried, pulverized, and preserved for further, valorization of further extraction of lycopene. So this is the crust here. There is requirement of feeder units. This is the opportunity of secondary agriculture and secondary horticulture. Feeder units of collection of those biomass, those byproducts and waste from the market or from processing industry or from the farmer's place, converting them into the storable feedstock for further utilization into the high-end values. So that is the feeder units. The second thing is secondary value addition system. This is what exactly extraction, we were mentioning. So this is there will be not many industries because this will be a capital intensive operation, and that's why the feeder units can supply this material for secondary extraction units or that kind of units which are working there. And then there are certain specialty products units which are only very very specific, and then that can be another way of adding high value to these otherwise low value byproducts and uh, the waste. It's not it's easy to say, but it's not that easy to do it, as far as using those byproducts and waste and all those things. But we are trying to do it. We will have to do it on vigorously. There are certain limitations and constraints. Non-availability of crop residues in a single from a single source. We know that our production system itself is very fragmented. Farmers have 1 hectare, 2 hectare land, and that's why the biomass production at each farmer is very less. And that's why, unless and until you have some collection system or aggregation system, these feeder units will not be viable. And that's why that is the first requirement, that some single source or some collection system has to be devised for this from farmers place, or from even decentralized processing units. Even in food processing or horticultural processing, there are small units in the village level or in small towns and all those things. The collection of tomato pomace, as I said, from those small ketchup units to somewhere at the district level, is another limitation and requirement. Huge transportation cost, as I said, that is another issue which we should try to handle with care. Lack of quality ingredients, because at times we say that we just wanted to dispose of with the seed and pomace and skin from tomato industry, and that's why we don't bother to separate seed or the peel separately. And that's why the quality, if somebody is interested only in lycopene, they are not interested in tomato seed. And that's why that is another issue of how to bring their desired quality ingredient or raw feed. So high initial investment is another problem. Specific clientele of the products. See, it's not open market for these kind of high value products. It's not directly to consumer, as tomato ketchup is directly being utilized by the general public, but not the lycopene. And that's why this is another issue which we should certainly deal with and handle it. Lack of course, private investment, absence of focused policies. Though we have policies of production, increasing the productivity and all those things, nowadays there are incentive schemes of processing and value addition, but still perhaps I have not come across any incentive government schemes to promote the utilization of byproducts and waste on a bigger or industrial scale. And that is perhaps is the demand of the time. There are perhaps this is the last slide. There are many other points which can be considered for the future strategy. The road to higher agricultural income rests on the efficient management of the post-production segment. This is what I just wanted to say, that it should be total supply chain logistics, value addition, processing, better economic utilization of byproducts. It's a holistic, way of doing it. Horticultural waste provides ample opportunities. This is an opportunity. Effective utilization helps in reducing the cost of production of crop residues, optimum utilization. The additional returns that it brings augment the income from farming activity, besides providing opportunities for employment and this thing. In this context, in the context of climate change and global warming, environmental protection is another issue. Territorial and functional expansion of markets is needed for healthy growth of the horticultural sector. Secondary processing for the food and non-food items, it should be the key issue to be handled. Formulation of a national post-harvest handling and processing policy. This is must. We are talking about post-harvest handling processing since so many years. We have a separate ministry of food processing industry, but there should be a national policy paper. How to do it? What is the best way of integrated utilization of the whole ecosystem? That is perhaps missing somewhere. Development of linkages between the universities and research organizations and the industry. It's very, very important. Attracting MSMEs, because large industry will not be very much interested initially, unless until we give them the confidence that there is a raw material available, there is market available. And that's why perhaps we can start with MSMEs, establishment of own and operate crop specific products of high values, falling by agro innovate in collaboration with some private companies. These are specific things. Establishment of training and incubation center at, see, as I said, these are very critical things. High valued food ingredients, it's not easy. It has its own risk and quality issues and safety issues attached with this. And that's why it's not that we are ready to handle all those things. So we require some more research, some more training, some more manpower resource generation, some more training and incubation centers, so that we build our capacity in handling those high valued and critical risky the products and raw material. The technologies available today for extraction and production of high valued are also mostly imported, and that's why few indigenous processes are available. Perhaps we'll have to further refine them. High value products and aromatic automatic pilot plants are not there. So those things perhaps are the I think is the way forward for doing the secondary horticulture and valorization. There are a lot of other issues which we can do it, but we have limitation of time. I did justification with the time allotted to me. Thank you very much for listening to me. I think I'm not expert in secondary horticulture and valorization. I'm man of post-harvest handling, but I tried to collect some material. Some material I could collect yesterday evening only. I had some function with the chief minister in my jurisdiction area. Nevertheless, this is the way which we try to learn and try to transfer the information available with us to the clientele, to our colleagues, our students and public at large. Thank you very
Thank you, Dr. Joshi, for giving such an elaborate talk on the subject. Though you say you don't know or it is not your specialization, without specialization, so much we got. Anyway, we will call you again. By that time, you will have some more experience. Now, I request Dr. Rajan to just summarize or highlight a few points. So many points Dr. Joshi has raised, but why he is disconnected? Anyway, he will join. Doesn't matter. You just, Dr. Rajan, highlight his points.
Thank you very much, sir. We had an exhaustive talk on the secondary horticulture and valorization. Particularly, he has started with the importance of the horticulture demands and the importance of the horticulture products and increasing the input costs and remunerative prices. How that can be important as far as post-harvest losses are concerned, and it is ultimately indicating the more nutritional losses. Then post-production losses, he has talked about how they are going to affect us, and particularly market price crash, how the expansion in the market territory is taking place or it is required. Then he has talked about the different difference between the primary and secondary horticulture, what is the shift is required, and the use of horticulture produce and expanding fresh produce market. He has emphasized on that. Discuss about the efficient supply chain and its improvement, different aspects of it, and limitation of the expanding markets leading to the requirement of the value addition. Then valorization and reusable waste. He has already talked about it. He has talked about it, and then the total biomass, he has considered that it should be utilized not only the product we are interested only in limited portion, limited part of that biomass which is being produced, and how we can link the market with horticulture produce and make it more profitable by using it. with all the different types of crops, and some of the examples he have given, mainly the tomato. And the link he linked the theme with the self-reliant India with the secondary horticulture, and detailed description was given how the quaternary processing as a secondary agriculture can be taken up. It can be taken up. The secondary and tertiary processing may be the feeder for the secondary agriculture. Then sustainability of the production can be only through secondary agriculture. Then he has said the monetization for the farmers and the produce, and the recognition of the agriculture as an enterprise can only take place if the secondary horticulture flourishes or agriculture flourishes. Why secondary horticulture is of primary importance, he has given, and he has given different examples, and some of the unique examples where the organic agriculture is also one of the non secondary horticulture, non-traditional products, those are important. Then emphasis was given on the bioactive compounds like polyphenols, organic acids, the aroma, etc., being extracted from the horticulture produce, and even more nutritional value per unit mass can be produced. That will be the main theme. There should be the main theme of the secondary agriculture. He explained about the functional expansion of the markets, the example of the banana value addition, and a example in Gujarat, Sapota example was also there. How at the village level, it is the supply chain is being strengthening, and he discussed about the possibility of exploitation of the usable waste. That is important. Valorization is dependent on that, and it is dependent on that processing. And different aspects of the waste utilization through different types of diagrams were explained. Those will be useful for us and mainly the students who are working in this area. Then biorefinery concept and circular economy, how it is related with the secondary agriculture. High value oil seed crop as an example of the pumping seed. A seed has oil has been given. Comparison with the groundnut was excellent. Is interesting, and the utilization of the banana pseudo stem for different types of compounds and particularly the fabrics. An example of Japan currency published on the currency made from the banana fiber paper, that is important. Pre-harvest drop of the citrus and its use as a secondary for a secondary agriculture. Seed and pomage, those are very rich source for different compounds. Then it is one additional dimension, that is non-fossil fuels from the horticulture, particularly secondary agriculture, particle board. So many examples you have given. The another important example was the extraction of the lycopene from the tomato pomase, which is being going to be waste. And he also discussed about the constraints, particularly in not getting raw material, transportation cost, quality and machinery not available. Then investment of the and lot of investment is required. Lack of public partnership, public-private partnership is there, and lack of policies for this supporting secondary agriculture. And what should be the future strategy? So, in short, we had a very comprehensive talk on the secondary agriculture and valorization, different aspects of these this important buzzword. We have those have been explained by him, and detailed explanations to different definitions and uh, words which are not common were given. We are thankful to Dr. Joshi for his nice presentation as an adding the knowledge to our these viewers of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shalendrajan, highlighting the points narrated by Dr. Joshi. There are a lot of appreciation on his talk, which I think at time we have exceeded the limit. So I postpone it for the next time, or we can have one-to-one interaction on that. I would like to say that Dr. Joshi has enlightened us to the extent that if you want to have the full benefit of primary agriculture or primary horticulture, you have to lay emphasis on secondary agriculture or secondary horticulture. Then only you can have the full benefit of your farming or whatever profession you call it, whether you take it as an enterprise or whatever is there. We are committing crime, wasting the biomass produced by putting so much of expensive inputs and energy. Inputs means fertilizers and other things, and the energy part, human energy and other, all those things. So this crime is to be stopped, and that stoppage will become when we lay emphasis on that secondary agriculture or secondary horticulture, what Dr. Joshi has narrated. Hope the planners or the those who plan the agriculture or horticulture in the country should not celebrate only the produce, the total quantum they have produced. They have equally wasted the tonnage produced by the farmers by spending their hard-earned money on that. So we should do something on that. To me, the subject is, I think, I thought of having this lecture in this webinar series. I think I did the right thing and chosen the right person to highlight the things Dr. Joshi has done justice to his, to at least highlight the importance and the avenues, some of the avenues you said. He has added to my knowledge that we have got a cooker bit. Cooker bit we call that bel wali sabjiyan, kaddu, tori, bindi and all that. He has added to my knowledge that that can be a oil crop. Pumpkin should be a oil crop. And we being, I claim that I am a plant breeder also, we were laying emphasis reducing the seed content in that pumpkin because we used to consider it's a nuisance. But we ourselves are a nuisance and not to understand the thing. That's what Dr. Joshi has pointed out. Likewise, he has given so many examples of that. Really eye opener, eye opener. Hats off to you, Dr. Joshi, for highlighting this subject, whether people like it or not. But I say this is something which requires the national attention on this subject. And agriculture, we say, is not paying. How it can be paying when we produce something to waste? Consider the total produce as a biomass, not that grain of rice and grain of wheat or the fruit of tomato or even the pulp of tomato. Most of the thing, I think 70, if not 70, at least 50% of the produce,
Yes.
50%, I'm sure, 50% of the agriculture or horticulture produce, we are happily wasting. And we are busy in producing the crops just simply to waste. What is this? We should change it and see with the present production, if we add value to it, if we give due emphasis, forget about the definition of secondary horticulture, secondary agriculture. The concept should be clear, not that definition. Definition, at least to me, has no meaning. The concept, the thing, what we mean to say, to what we mean or what we want to understand or what we want to convey, that should be clear. So definition can be anything. So that is very important. And these subjects need, I think, extensive research, development, and extension. See what amount of that phytopharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, cosmic cuticles, we are wasting, simply wasting and importing in the country. And keep on, we beat the drum that we are short of it. Yes, we are short of it because we are wasting. We have the things, but we don't understand or see or I should say keen to know what we have got. So I think we have to be very vigilant and let us be practical, sincere, and I think farmers are putting lot of labor to produce the biomass. Kindly help him to get the value of his labor by resorting to such things. Then only he will be able to get at least part of it. He will get. I know the other players will get a major chunk of it, but at least something will reach him. If it, as he was mentioning that in when the supply is more, the glut is there, the price crashes. So at that time, at least the price won't crash to the extent. These primary processes, secondary process, tertiary process, and all that processes are value-added people or whatever storage people, all sort of players will come to his rescue, and he will get at least the return of his what he has invested with some profit on that. So, friends, we had what should I say? A fantastic talk, and think seriously on that. What are we doing? The things are available with that, though our population is this, our production is also surplus, all sort of a thing. But doesn't mean that we should waste it. It's a crime. It's a big crime. We are producing and wasting. What is this? Only part of it we are utilizing it. And then you say we are there at the top of this. No, you can, I think, sustain the other nations also by, I think, if we add value to all these things. So, Dr. Joshi sir, thank you so much for enlightening us on the secondary horticulture and valorization. Valorization is just a addition to the biomass left after adding the value or after harvesting or using or whatever there. Whatever is left, whatever term you use for that, other than the waste, if you add value to it, that's the valorization. Things should be clear to the viewer what we mean by valorization. People don't understand what is valorization because the value addition and valorization they confuse. Confusion is there. But so we should not go under that confusion part. See, whatever biomass is there, it should be utilized to the extent possible. Minimal waste, minimal waste. I should say only the water part should be wasted. Rest of the solid part should be utilized. And he has given so many examples of the banana, etc. I think there is something. In fact, every plant species has the potential to be profitable industry once we determine or realize the full potential. Yes, I agree. I agree. I agree with that, Ravindraji, and I think Dr. Joshi will also agree with that. And we should lay emphasis, and that is why this webinar, just to stimulate the thinking of the people. It's not that we are doing something a very great service. We just want to stimulate the thinking of the people on different subject that what are the potential and what we are doing. That's all. So with these words, Dr. Joshi, you want to react to that question?
Thank you, Professor Brahma Singh ji and Dr. Shailendra. See, we in India, we know that we are producing hundreds of millions, 200, 300 million tons of the horticultural produce. So we have great potentiality to be the global player as far as the all kinds of material. The other countries don't have that much biomass.
Yes.
We have 300 million tons of fruits and vegetables available, and we have all those things, the tomato pomace available to feed whole world as far as lycopene is concerned.
See,
On
what
the
a
other
potential.
hand,
What a potential.
our export market for the present horticulture produce is very meager.
Yes.
But we have the potential to be the major global, player as far as all those things are concerned, because we have
Because
all
we
those.
are, we are stuck with the thing that the horticulture commodities are perishable. We don't want to come out of it. Anyway,
So,
okay, sir, continue.
so I
Sorry.
think great opportunities lies, and I think we have a great team available in the country. It's only the sensitization. I tried today to just make the sensitization that this is the things which we are knowing, but we are not taking it seriously, and perhaps we should do something at both the policy level and as far as the otherwise also at public level also. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I would love to interact on these kind of topics again and again whenever the opportunity is given. So thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Okay, Ji, thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you,
sir.
friends. Sorry for the delay. We meet again with the topic. Can you display the topic for the next talk? Vegetables improvement in next decade, and we will request the scientist to speak on the pumpkin seed thing also. We will request him throw some light on that. Good. We meet
See,
next Sunday.
per hectare production of pumpkin seed oil is almost equal to the oil yield per hectare from groundnut. So
Yes,
or,
and
or even slightly more.
eye opener.
So there are many things.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. Thank you all. Okay, good day. Enjoy the rest of the Sunday. Thank you.
Sorry,
Bye.
sorry. ये क्या हुआ ये इसको भी लॉग आउट